literally just cast that rod in. It's been in maybe, well, the other rod is on the floor. Only very lightly hooked. He's not the biggest pike in the world, but after 10 seconds of casting in, I'll take it. Let's leave him there while we get the unhooking mat set up, and we'll take a look at him. Hello and welcome to this week's angling blog, and what a way to start it. Look at the beautiful colours on that. We're on a brand new venue for me today, pike fishing. I've never pike fished here before, and 50 seconds after casting in, you look up and you just see that float start bobbing away. More than made up, really am. I was happy with one today. I thought if we come and we get a chance, we'll learn a little bit about a new venue. But what a great start. Let's get this beautiful little pike back and get another rod in the water. As I said, what a great little start. And off he goes. Hopefully the first of one or two. You know, to get a bite that quick, you've got to hope that there's one or two more in the area. So, like I said, brand new venue today, and when I'm tackling a new venue, this is always my go-to bait. It's just the best all-round bait there is, and I think the reason that they are so good isn't down to smell. I just think they're a great in-between size bait. You know, if a pike's feeding on bream, they're not quite as big as that, but if it's feeding on fry, it's not quite as small. So it's a good in-between size. So that is always my start bait on any venue, and again, new venue, and it's worked within 50 seconds. So I know you guys like to hear why I've set up in certain spots, and this one's quite easy. I've just come to a spot where there's cover, so you can see there's nothing there, and then we've got quite a lot of reeds, and that's as simple as it is. Literally, my thinking was that any bait fish moving along here, if I was a pike, I'd be sat right there waiting for them. With regards bait location, the second rod I did put a bit deeper. As you can see, it's just a bit further out, more into the slightly deeper water, and the thinking there really is learning. I want to learn where the pike are. The pike could quite easily be down the middle of the canal, but when I plumbed up, it was quite even from under my feet all the way to them reeds. So I put one bait tight up, and that's where they had the run. I can't really say that's why I got the run, because that was literally the only rod in the water. So now we've got one in the slightly deeper water, and we've got the other one back out. And when you get a run that quick, you can see absolute chaos on the bank, tackle everywhere. So the first thing I'm going to do is have a bit of a tidy up. Absolutely buzzing with that start. Sometimes it's the kiss of death, isn't it? You know, a run that quick. But yeah, after missing the pike in a bit, and we'll talk about that later on in the vlog, it's great to see that float go. And that is how subtle a take can be. You can just see that float just moving slowly, and that for me is what pike fishing is all about. That float coming alive, and that is where it's at. It is freezing cold today, so give it a few seconds and we'll wind down. Again, doesn't feel the biggest pike in the world, but after such a long time not fishing for them due to COVID, oh, he's come off. It just shows you can leave them quite a bit, and that bait was still in the pike's mouth. People ask me all the time how to judge when to strike, and it comes down to a number of reasons. It comes down to, you know, the time of year, the take, you know, how strong the take is, how confident the take is. But that is the second take now against them reeds, because obviously that is where the pike are hiding. But yeah, it just shows, you know, if that was October, you'd have probably struck a bit earlier and that bait wouldn't have come off. But right now, this time of year, we've had ice on the venues, you just got to leave it that bit longer. Maybe I got a bit too excited. Well, let's get the bait back out. So it is always gutting when that happens, when you lose one, but that is part of fishing, and it most certainly is part of pike fishing. So if you are going to try pike fishing, you're going to have to get used to losing the odd fish or two along the way. I did see it, and it was probably similar size to the one we had right at the start, but I think the float's going again. Just give me a second, let's check it out. Just slowly moving against the wind. Talking about losing that fish and then the float's gone behind, but it has just come to a halt and the pike has dropped the bait. So like losing fish, you have to get used to drop runs as well, especially when there's quite a few jacks about, which it seems. But never give it too long. I'm going to try and see if there's anything on that, because it could be that it's come up the shelf. So where was we? Losing fish, and I guess drop runs are all part of it, and especially so over the years I've learned when there's jacks about, it does seem like that much activity quite early on in the session, you know, one on the bank, one lost and a drop run. There's obviously a few jacks about. Now this time of year, when we're coming into February, isn't such a bad thing. Them jacks will be moving towards those bigger females if they're about, so I'm not too concerned about, you know, that happening. Today the first session is all about learning, it really is. I'm proper made up with that pike at the start, and that'll do me today. Do you know what I mean? Anything that happens from now on is a bonus and a learning point. But to have 3 pieces of activity in a day, you know, a drop run, a lost one and a pike, and it's about 10:30 in the morning of that, then yeah, it's all part of that jigsaw. But you do like to get them in. The thing I would say is you forget how exciting pike fishing is when you see that float just start to move, the heart starts pounding, and the excitement is like nothing else. And this year, I do apologise on the channel, there has been a lack of pike fishing on the channel, and that is purely down to COVID. The other venues that I fish for pike are just too busy with people, you know, dog walkers. They just don't give the opportunity like this one here to get away from the towpath. So yeah, decided to come and give it a go, and boy am I glad that I did. And you can't see him at the moment because he's just gone into them reeds there, but a heaven has just literally landed and gone towards the back of them. Now this wind on the water today, you're not going to see fish topping, but little things like that just give you that bit of confidence that, you know, you might be in the right spot. Many things this year, COVID has given the opportunity for this session to happen. Most certainly if COVID wasn't here today, I probably wouldn't be trying this venue, but it does present problems as well. As you can see, them reeds go on for ages, but so does the path. And you know, dog walkers, there's been a few passed already. I don't fancy standing on that path all day with that many people coming past me. It's very narrow and you've just got to think about it sensibly. I'm just standing there by them trees and nobody's really walking along the path. It gives me space to work, but you can see the reeds end there. So it might be a case today of us heading back the other way to a few similar spots like this. I'm not getting the full potential of the venue. You know, I'd love to be, without COVID, I'd love to be just exploring them reeds down there, but no fish at the moment is worth the risk. So really quickly, I'll take you over the simple setup that I'm using today, and it's simple for the reason when you come to a new venue, you want to be using stuff that you've used before and you know works. The last thing you want to be worrying about is your setup, So always go with rigs that you've used before and you know work. So we'll start with the rod that I'm using today. It's my Korum Deadbait snapper rod, 3.25 pound test curve. I've got that down to a zelos reel, and on there I've got 60 pound Pike braid. That heavy setup is going to allow you to bend the hooks out should you get stuck on bottom. The last thing you want to be doing is leaving a dead bait trace on the bottom with a bait on. That is almost certainly going to lead to a dead pike. Moving down to the business end, I've got a float stop on the line. I've got 2 high visibility beads, and what that lets me know is when I'm tight up to my float, I like to have my float lying flat on top, but just so it's just a float over depth. In the low light, that will know when the line is tight to it. Got that down to a ledger, and then a quick change swivel, which makes just changing your traces on and off between sessions really easy. When I'm storing my pike rods, I just take my trace off, and I do leave them set up to that point. There, I've got my homemade wire trace down to a dead bait. I'll put a link at the top of the screen now to a video that I made, the very first video I made on the channel actually, about how to make your own dead bait traces. That is a nice simple float ledger setup that I'll be using today. As I said, when you come into a venue, you don't want to be worrying about your rigs. Take something that you've used before and you know works. If you have seen the videos on the channel over the past couple of years, have seen this setup and you know it works. I'll put a link to one of the playlists at the top if you are new and you want to see it in action. We'll get back to the fishing. If you've been following the channel for long enough, you'll know exactly what that means. Mr. and Mrs. Swan, again, making an appearance in a pike video. So it's 12:30 now, and there hasn't been any type of indication on the rods for the past 3 hours maybe. So maybe that's a sign that, you know, it's an early feeding pattern on here. But one thing about new venues, you've never got to be afraid to move. Travelling light, as you can see today, I've literally got my fold up landing net, a rucksack, got my rods, literally only the rods in there at the moment, nice and light to carry, and I've got my unhooking mat which is attached on the back. So dead easy, grab the rods, put them in there and you're good to move. One thing when you're learning the venue, moving should never be a hard option. So walking to the peg, I did spot 1 or 2 features along the way that I just want to drop a dead bait on to see if there's a pike around them. Spot number 1 is literally an overhanging tree that goes in the water. Now the water's that clear, I don't think I need to be right on it. I want to give myself a bit of room in case the pike runs. Despite trying 3 more likely looking swims on the way back, no more bites were forthcoming. I hope this video has shown what it's like when you target a new venue and give you a couple of little hints and tips on what I look for and how I approach a new venue. A huge part of new sessions is, once it's finished, looking back at what you've learned. If you look at this session today, we've learned that there's certain parts of the canal that are deeper than others. We've seen the venue that we want to fish, it's gin clear, and the bites have come quite quickly after casting in. So if I was going to come here again, I might change my setup to allow, you know, a lighter weight, to allow that bait just to flutter down slowly as the pike are looking for it. We've learned that there almost certainly could be a bite time on here first thing in the morning. We got them bites within the first hour, lots of activity, and then quite a lot of inactivity. So you could start to target certain parts of the day and not waste your time on the rest of the day if that pattern did continue. The pike in here are most certainly beautiful, and it's got me thinking about maybe if you've got a double figure pike, how nice it would look. We've also learned that there might be a big part of this venue that doesn't hold pike. This time of year, location is everything. We've tried 3 swims in the afternoon. They all look like they should hold a fish, and if a pike was underneath them features, I'm almost certain we would have picked it up. So it could be that the pike are quite localised to a certain area. These are all things that I've learned just in one session on the canal, and that is how you can approach it. Being on the water, you get to see the wildlife. There's been herons going over and cormorants, and they've been landing in certain areas. All this comes together to build that picture for the next session. We are late on in the year now, and I'm hoping to get back on this venue and do a bit of fishing. So hopefully it won't be the last video you see on here, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, giving you an insight into how I target a new venue, my mindset and what I take from the sessions once I've done them. I want to wish you all tight lines in your own fishing. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all next week.